Good evening. Today is May 11th, and this is the Monday business meeting of the board, the Cabarrus County Board of Education, and it will be called to order. Board members, tonight we have the presentation of colors from the Northwest Cabarrus High School Air Force ROTC cadets, or JROTC cadets, and that they'll come in, and Dr. Kirk will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The members of the Air Force JROTC unit from Northwest Cabarrus High School are Cadet First Lieutenant Caitlin Plowman, Cadet Staff Sergeant Dustin Ryder, Cadet Senior Airman Donovan Villasenor, Cadet Airman First Class Devin Morgan, and Cadet Major Ishmael Villasenor. So we thank them for coming out tonight. Also tonight we have with us Deputy Keith Drake of Bethel. Officer Drake provided us some real entertainment this year in that he has been announced as the North Carolina Dare Officer of the Year, so he has a special accolade that goes with him. So. Didn't mean to embarrass you, Mr. Drake. All right, board members, let's go to 3.1 and adopt an agenda. I need a motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
All right. Rob Walter made the motion. David Harrison seconded that. All in favor of approving the agenda as written, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Unanimous. All right. First on the agenda, Hilbish Ford Teacher of the Month, Mr. Tim Vaughn. Please come up forward, and Dr. Chris Louder and Ms. Glenda Jones.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. I am thrilled to present and celebrate another one of our outstanding teachers this evening. Mr. Vaughn, we thank you and Hilbish Ford for your continued commitment to Cabarrus County Schools and to helping us honor a terrific teacher each month. The Cabarrus County Schools Hilbish Ford Teacher of the Month for May is Heather Campbell. Mrs. Campbell, would you, your family, and any members of your school's administrative team please come forward? Heather Campbell is a lead teacher at Royal Oaks Elementary School. She was nominated for this month's award by a student whose brief response to the prompt on the nomination form, asking why the person nominating feels the teacher deserves special recognition, speaks volumes. When I first came to this school, I was in Mrs. Campbell's class. She was so nice. She was not just my first teacher, she was my first friend. Mrs. Campbell, on behalf of Cabarrus County Schools, thank you for your welcoming and extending the hand of friendship to students in your classroom and in your school. Please allow Dr. Louder and Mr. Vaughn to present you with your awards.
Okay. Cabarrus County Schools Teacher of the Year, Ms. Glenda Jones, and Ms. Teresa Abernathy.
And Teresa out there organizing the forces. So we are here tonight to recognize our Teacher of the Year nominees for each school, our 5 finalists, and our Teacher of the Year. So we want to take the opportunity to recognize them formally in front of the Board of Education. And our first one is Melanie Searle from Beverly Hills Elementary School. And if you all will just, as I call your name, come all the way across, and we'll hold our applause till the end. Kristen Clark, C.A. Furr Elementary School. Jennifer Williams, Central Cabarrus High School. Emily Workman, Charles E. Boger Elementary. Tamara Beaver, Coltrane Webb Elementary. Jessica Mitchell, Concord High School. Kelly Haskins, Cox Mill Elementary. Elizabeth Thompson, Early College. Erin Lee, Winkler Middle School. Jody, I've left off 2 that are not with us tonight, and Jody Hott. Deborah Dingman, Harrisburg Elementary School. Abigail Carricker, Hickory Ridge High School. Lisa Jane Hammond, Hickory Ridge Middle School. Allison Armstrong, Long School. Megan Wood, Mary Frances Wall. Kathy Dennis, Mount Pleasant Elementary. Michelle Turner, Mount Pleasant Middle School. Robin McNally, Northwest Cabarrus High School. Joy Williams, Patriots Elementary School. Krista Lance, R. Brown McAllister Elementary School. Mandy Davis, Rocky River Elementary School. Rachel Trebes, Royal Oaks Elementary School. Lada Knopp, Irvin Elementary School. Kimberly Kopp, Odell Elementary School. Katie D'Arcangelo, Weddington Elementary School. Susan Frazier, Winecoff Elementary School. Jane Frazier, Wolf Meadow Elementary School. And aren't these teachers wonderful? They just move automatically. You've taught your children well. Okay. And we want to recognize at this time, we first of all want to give all of you a round of applause. We also want to recognize our finalists for the Teacher of the Year for Cabarrus County Schools, and Ashley Chastain, A.T. Allen Elementary School. Jessica Onlow, Cox Mill High School. Angela Martin, J.N. Freeze Magnet School. Ryan Shaver, Mount Pleasant High School. And our 2015-16 Teacher of the Year, Kelly Baumgardner, Northwest Cabarrus Middle School. Thank you all, and congratulations to each one of you. And if you would just do an about face and go right through there, and they'll shake hands with you, okay? No, right through the front here. There you go, right around through here. Very nice, Mr. Furr.
Ms. Ronnie Boone is at the podium, and she's going to be presenting us the Impact Through Education Awards.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, board members, members of the audience, and to our viewing audience at home. Tonight, we will celebrate and recognize students and staff members who have received Impact Through Education Awards for Weinkauf Elementary School and Cox Mill High School. This is our final installment of Impact Through Education Awards for the 2014-2015 school year. And we want to once again thank our friends at Concord Printing for sponsoring these awards for our students and staff. So without any further ado, we'll start with Weinkauf Elementary School, and I'd like to invite the administrative team from Weinkauf Elementary School to come in, and also our first honoree from Weinkauf Elementary. Come on in, Riley. Riley Van Raviston. That's right. And I need you to stand right there on that green tape. And Riley, if your family would come on up and stand with you and turn around and face the audience. You'll talk to them later. Riley is a 5th grader at Weinkauf Elementary School. Riley's favorite subjects are math and science. He plans to attend San Diego State University and hopes to complete his Eagle Award in Scouting. His professional plans include either being an NBA player or a firefighter. Riley's favorite Weinkauf memory goes back a few years when on the first day of kindergarten, he shot out of bed for the first time to meet his new friends. When asked why Weinkauf is a special place to learn, Riley says, "I think that Weinkauf has been a great place for me to learn because the teachers that teach me are the best in the world. They go at the speed that we want them to and make it a fun experience to learn. In my years at Weinkauf, I have learned so much, and the teachers who taught me made it a good time. Riley's teacher, Mrs. Sarah Irvin, shares this about Riley. Riley is a wonderful, hardworking student. He always strives to make a difference in all that he does. Students look up to him and see him as a leader and a friend in our school. Congratulations, Riley. You are an Impact Through Education Award winner for Weinkauf Elementary School." Our next Weinkauf honoree is Ariana Johnson. Would Ariana and her family please come forward? Weinkauf is proud to present Ariana Johnson as one of its Impact Through Education Award student recipients. Her favorite subject is math, and she hopes to one day study veterinary medicine in college. Her interests include reading action and suspense books and taking care of animals. One of Ariana's favorite memories from her years at Weinkauf took place in Mrs. Kristen Trick's 5th grade class. Ariana says, "We wrote essays about how DARE changed our lives. I was able to share with my classmates the real impact that drugs and alcohol can have on your life. I was able to share the story of my family and how I overcame that to be a successful student." When asked to describe why Weinkauf has been a great place to receive an education, Ariana said, "I'm glad I moved to Weinkauf because the teachers really get into helping me learn. If I don't understand it, they break it down for me so that I can understand. I like Mrs. Trick and my new friends. I like having a good education." Her teacher shares this about her. Ariana is a 5th grader who has made an impact on Weinkauf Elementary. She's new to Weinkauf this year, but her handprints will be lasting. Academically, Ariana is successful and strives to give 200% each day. Throughout the year, Ariana has shared bits and pieces of her past. Her past has not been an easy road. Her family has faced many struggles, and because of her aunt, who provides safety, love, and stability, she has been able to overcome many hardships. As a DARE essay winner, Ariana had the strength and courage to share some very personal battles from her past. Parents, students, and teachers were amazed that this happy, successful, bright child had faced and overcome so much at such a young age. She is the model student and shared that anyone can overcome adversity regardless of what it is. Her struggles have shaped her into an incredible young lady who is not afraid to share her fears or struggles in order to help another student and change the lives of adults who know her well. Ariana makes an impact at Weinkauf on students, teachers, and parents daily. Congratulations, Ariana. You are an Impact Through Education Award winner for Weinkauf Elementary School. Our next Weinkauf honoree is Mrs. Karen Von Klar. Would Mrs. Von Klar and her family please come forward? Karen Von Klar has a total of 13 years teaching experience, with 8 of those years at Weinkauf. She has taught all grades between 1st and 4th, with 9 years teaching 4th grade. When asked why she wanted to become a teacher, Mrs. Von Klar shared, "My father was a teacher, so I grew up with an educator in the household. I, however, never thought that that would be my path. I was interested in science and sports. After years of being a lifeguard, I decided to put my love of water and science together and looked into marine biology. Along with lifeguarding, I also taught swimming lessons. After watching children learn, my thoughts began to focus on my father and why he chose his profession. I left marine biology behind, chose elementary education, and never looked back." Mrs. Von Klar is currently serving her campus as a multi-classroom leader. Regarding this role, she says, "I feel like this school year has really been my time to make a difference in the lives of several teachers and students on a scale larger than in my own classroom. In my position as multi-classroom leader, I have been a part of identifying needs of students as well as teachers and making an impact at a variety of levels." She feels Weinkauf is a special place where opportunities for leadership and growth are all around. There is a focus on growing not only the students, but also the teachers and the staff. Here's what Emily Engels, a first-year teacher being mentored by Mrs. Von Klar, shared about our award recipient. "Karen wears many hats at Weinkauf. She is not only a mentor, she's an advocate, a friend, a behavior therapist, and so much more. Coming into your first year of teaching can be overwhelming and scary, but when you have a great mentor like I do, it makes the transition much easier. Even before the first day of school, Karen was in my classroom helping me set up and prepare for the school year. This meant the world to me. Karen spent countless hours in my classroom at the beginning of the year, modeling best practices and helping me to become an effective classroom manager. Not only has Karen supported me this year, but she has supported our whole grade level in so many ways. Karen is one of the most hardworking, dedicated, and compassionate people I know inside the world of education. The impact Karen has had on my teaching will not only impact my current class, but hundreds of students to come. I do not know another person more deserving of this award. Congratulations, Mrs. Von Klar, and thank you for making an impact through education at Weinkauf Elementary." And our final honoree from Weinkauf Elementary School this evening is Teresa Seiler. Would Mrs. Seiler please come forward with her family? Weinkauf Elementary is also proud to present Mrs. Teresa Seiler as its Impact Through Education Award recipient. Mrs. Seiler will retire in June with an amazing 31 years of service to Cabarrus County Schools. All but 3 of those years were at Weinkauf Elementary. She assisted in the severe and profound EC classroom for 22 years and then transitioned to the custodial team for the remainder of her time at Weinkauf. You won't find a more dedicated and humble servant to the needs of all children than Mrs. Seiler. Through the years, she has helped countless students through her observant nature, whether it is noticing that a kindergartner is without proper shoes and socks, or a child who needs that reassuring pat on the back. Mrs. Seiler takes action to see that their needs are met. Over the last couple of years, she was asked to mentor a group of students who were in need of a positive role model. She took a sincere interest in them and their daily school lives to get them back on track. Mrs. Seiler, congratulations on receiving an Impact Through Education Award for Weinkauf Elementary School. Your school and your students are very proud of you. Next, we will recognize students and staff members from Cox Mill High School. I'd like to invite Todd Smith and any other members of his administrative team to come forward at this time. Yeah, there you go. And our first honoree from Cox Mill High School this evening is Nathan Hayes. Would Nathan and his family please come forward? Nathan Hayes is vice president of the senior class. He has proceeded through high school near the top of his class and has blown his teachers away with his exceptional work in the classroom. As an all-around great student and well-liked individual, Nathan has repeatedly given back to others through his service in the community and during his time at Cox Mill High School. Serving on student council, Nathan has exemplified his ability to work with his fellow student council members, as well as by leading the rest of the student body in school-sponsored events and activities. Aside from his commitment to student council, Nathan also participates in the Cox Mill High School leadership class, where students are empowered and encouraged to build on those interpersonal skills that make them the fantastic leaders that they are. One word used to describe Nathan is selfless. Whether it be at school, at a Charger football game, or out serving his community, Nathan is always thinking about the other person and for the good of the entire group. This is an essential quality when taking on any leadership role, and Nathan reveals that quality every day. Outside of his extracurricular activities with Cox Mill High School, Nathan has worked the past 2 fall seasons with Charlotte's popular amusement park, Scarowinds, where he assists the park in several different areas. As shown in the Charge Up editorial 2 months ago written by a fellow Cox Mill senior, Nathan is pictured at the Scarowinds theme park, complete with full face paint and costume. The article goes on to mention Nathan's enjoyment with the program and getting to see people's reactions to the characters in the park. Nathan's efforts and leadership qualities will follow him after his graduation this June as he begins his college work in Raleigh as a part of the North Carolina State Wolfpack. Congratulations, Nathan. You are an Impact Through Education Award winner for Cox Mill High School. Our next Cox Mill honoree is Rebecca Ortiz. Would Rebecca and her family please come forward? Becca Ortiz, a name that is synonymous with the words extracurricular activity. Arguably, her most impressive accomplishments have been how she's helped her community, not just to fill a requirement or mark off a checkbox on a college application, but because of her willingness to serve others beyond herself. As one of the top students in her class and a phenomenal student in the classroom, Becca has done everything right when it comes to her academic responsibilities. She's always at school, some days later than teachers, to work on individual assignments and leadership projects. Participating in her after-school responsibilities include, but are not limited to, the Cox Mill Beta Club, Juniorettes, Chemistry Club, and the Chemistry Club, while still managing to have a social life with her friends and family outside of school. While there are only so many hours in the day, Becca has managed to set aside time for the community organizations she's involved with. Again, these opportunities include, but are not limited to, volunteering with University City United Methodist Church, the Charlotte Children's Theater, the Old Courthouse Theater in downtown Concord, Highland Creek's community-sponsored events, and the Musical Minds program at Blythe Elementary School. It is important for us to note that Cox Mill High School does not have a community service requirement, and all volunteer opportunities are treated as such, volunteers. Becca's commitment to these organizations have far exceeded anyone's expectations for high school students and has shown that her intentions of helping others before herself are indeed genuine. While Becca will move on and continue her work in the fall as a Carolina Tar Heel, she will be a Charger forever. Congratulations, Becca. You are an Impact Through Education Award winner for Cox Mill High School. Our next Cox Mill honoree is Mrs. Kelly Burns. Would Mrs. Burns and her family please come forward? This is you? Okay. Mrs. Burns has established herself as an integral part of the Cox Mill High School family. She's been an English teacher at the school since 2010 and has done an outstanding job. She consistently maintains a high level of instruction and engagement in her classroom. In the 5 years that she's been at Cox Mill, she has had an opportunity to work with and influence more than 900 students. Mrs. Burns has taken on many leadership roles since coming to Cox Mill. She's taken on the role of SIT team chairperson as well as English department co-chairperson. Mrs. Burns has been a cooperating teacher for aspiring student teachers as well as a mentor for new teachers. She is dedicated, passionate, friendly, collaborative, and always willing to provide help to both staff and students. Here are a few comments from her colleagues. Kelly is 100% engaged with not only her students and their learning, but also her fellow teachers and what they need to do their jobs. She's energetic, positive, proactive, and always willing to share her ideas for the betterment of the English department and the entire school. Another colleague said, Kelly is a teacher who is truly called to teaching. She has a clear and strong sense of purpose and integrity, and she holds herself and her students accountable for the highest standards of learning possible. She has a passion for literature, writing, and learning that she instills in her students. She is truly committed to creating a classroom and school environment that fosters high-quality education for all students. Kelly is passionate about instilling in students appreciation for the power of literature, often requiring students to explore historical and artistic connections. And finally, she is inspirational in her ability to create a space for students to discover themselves as writers and lifelong learners. She models and thinks through her assignments, always considering a student's point of view. I'm grateful to teach alongside this outstanding educator and colleague. Congratulations, Mrs. Burns, and thank you for having an impact through education at Cox Mill High School. And our final honoree this evening from Cox Mill High School is Mr. Jesus Castillo. Would Mr. Castillo and his family please come forward? Mr. Castillo has been with Cox Mill High School since the school opened in 2009. He was named head custodian in 2010, and he is an institution at Cox Mill High School. Every day he makes it a point to interact with staff and students. Whether he's helping to move furniture for a teacher or helping students set up for an event, he is always pleasant and willing to help. Mr. Castillo is recognized throughout the county as an exceptional head custodian. As a result of his hard work, Cox Mill has received numerous recognitions for cleanliness, safety, and energy efficiency. He is extremely dedicated, conscientious, organized, and friendly. Cox Mill High School would not be the same without his efforts. Here's what a few staff members had to say about Mr. Castillo. He has always, always, always come to my aid no matter what I needed. When a teacher or other staff call me for something custodial related, Jesus takes care of it right away. I can always get him on the radio no matter how busy he is or how hectic things are. On top of that, he's a very likable person and a huge asset to Cox Mill. He's always quick to help and gets the job done right. He's always personable and cares about his coworkers. Congratulations, Mr. Castillo, and thank you for making an impact through education at Cox Mill High School.
Mr. Ben Allred and Ms. Donna Smith will come to the podium. We're going to be going through the outstanding academic achievements and noteworthy scholarships.
Ben Allred and I have probably one of the most distinct pleasures tonight to introduce to everyone here one of the most exciting groups of high school graduates almost to be. And let me explain why. We've had a hard time being quiet, but then we've had a hard time being quiet because we're busy celebrating the news as each one was talking to another, someone they knew years ago or have reconnected. It's exciting because standing before you tonight are students who have received tremendous scholarships and appointments. And I think we can say these are students who have excelled both in the classroom and also in the community. And they're just good. And we celebrate tonight the fact that we get to honor you. Because we think at this time of the year we get to think, you know, we do well here. But we do well here because of what you've brought to us. And we thank you for all the gifts that you've given all through the years. But also tonight we celebrate all the things you're bringing back to Cabarrus County because you put us in the map across the country with these awards. And so Ben will now announce the scholarship and the appointments.
So we have a number of folks that aren't here tonight. I'm going to call out the folks that are here. When I call your name, just step forward and be recognized, and then we'll go down the list, and then I'll call all the folks who are not here tonight, which are a number of them, also distinguished honors. So first we have to the U.S. Air Force Academy, Jenna Petty from J.M. Robinson High School. Also to the U.S. Air Force Academy, Addison Smith from Cox Mill High School. For the U.S. Naval Academy, Nick Felaney from Concord High School. A Gates Millennium Scholar, Jeremiah Nance from Concord High School. Our National Merit Scholarship finalists and recipients, Lauren Hunkley from Northwest Cabarrus High School. Elizabeth Kingaby from Central Cabarrus High School. She is a recipient. Sarah Strathman from Northwest Cabarrus High School. Michael Walker from Cox Mill High School. And Michael, if you'll stay right there, Michael also is going to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill as a Carolina Scholar. Congratulations. Moving along, North Carolina State University Park Scholar, Kruti Patel from Hickory Ridge High School. We have 2 Questbridge Scholars to Yale University, Elijah St. Clair from Northwest Cabarrus High School. Also a Questbridge Scholar to Vanderbilt University, Sasha Whitley from Concord High School. And last but not least tonight, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill Moorhead Kane Scholar, Sophia McFarlane from Central Cabarrus High School. And let me go through the list just as honorable, and we're sorry they couldn't be with us tonight. U.S. Air Force Academy Prep School, Sean McKinney from Cox Mill High School. A Dartmouth College Scholar, Bruce Dixon from J.M. Robinson High School. An Emory and Henry College Trustee Scholar, Josh Lamarck from J.M. Robinson High School. A Huntington College Endowed Scholar, Cheryl Maxwell from J.M. Robinson. Our other National Merit Scholarship finalists, Robert David Evans from J.M. Robinson. Vikash Kumar from Hickory Ridge High School, Anna Silver, Northwest Cabarrus High School, she is a recipient, Mary Catherine Wallace from Hickory Ridge High School, and Michael Williams from Central Cabarrus High School. He is a recipient and also a recipient of the National Achievement Award from National Merit. Reynolds American Foundation Scholar, Michael Walker from Cox Mill, University of Alabama Presidential Merit Scholar, Robert David Evans from J.M. Robinson, University of North Carolina at Charlotte Levin Scholar, Elizabeth Kingaby. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. Yeah, I'm sorry. Levine Scholar, Elizabeth Kingaby. Sorry, I missed that. Slap me on the hand later. University of South Carolina Woodrow Wilson Scholar, Avery Price from J.M. Robinson High, and Winston-Salem State University Chancellor Scholar, Ania Gatewood from J.M. Robinson High School. Amazing scholarship. And we just look for nothing from the best from you in the future. So congratulations again.
All right, Ms. Nicole Sandor, if you'll come to the podium, and she'll be talking about the North Carolina Governor's School and making that presentation.
Good evening. 16 Cabarrus County High School students have been selected to attend the Governor's School of North Carolina summer program. Criteria for selection included grades, aptitude and achievement test scores, and teacher recommendations. Students in the performing visual arts were also required to audition in the area that they applied for. Nominations were submitted to the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, and a statewide committee determined the students that were selected. So congratulations to these wonderful people. We're going to call out the names, the school that they represent, and also the area that they are going to Governor's School for. First, we have Mary Willis from Northwest Cabarrus in the area of art. Ryan Petty from J.M. Robinson in the area of choral music tenor. Faith Martin from Concord in the area of English. Catherine Laws from Northwest Cabarrus, also in the area of English. Merrill Douglas from Concord in the area of English. Drew Cheek from J.M. Robinson in the area of math. Luke Tucker from Hickory Ridge in the area of math. Dharma Peterson from Central Cabarrus in the area of natural science. Grant Brown from Cox Mill in the area of natural science. Tom Wynn from Hickory Ridge in the area of natural science. Chloe Arajando from Concord in the area of social science. Emily Badgett from J.M. Robinson, also in the area of social science. Maram El Naguib from Cox Mill in the area of social science. Emily Absher from Northwest Cabarrus in the area of theater. Leah War from Hickory Ridge, also in the area of theater, could not be here tonight. And Maya Christian from Hickory Ridge in the area of theater. So congratulations and thank you for representing our county so well.
All right, Mr. Brian Tyson, it's time for you to come on to the podium, and Brian's going to present to us the Athletic Achievement Awards.
I noticed everybody was leaving when I got up, but I won't take that personal. I'd like to call forward Ethan Jones and Tucker Wall. They'll come to the front. These gentlemen are being recognized tonight as the state champions for our winter season. Ethan, here on my left, is a senior wrestler at Hickory Ridge High School, where he won the 3A state championship in the 160-pound weight class with an overall record of 51-3 for the season. Outstanding. He was all conference. He was the conference tournament champion, a regional champion. He was also a 3-sport athlete, and that speaks very well of him as well as an athlete in wrestling, football, and track. His future plans, he is undecided at this time, but I'm sure somebody's definitely going to want a good wrestler. So congratulations, Ethan, on a job well done. Next we have Tucker. Tucker's making it a habit of coming up here. He is a 3-time state champion. He was up in front of us last year. He is a repeat winner of the 50-yard freestyle. Last year he also won the 50-yard freestyle and the 200-yard freestyle relay. He is a senior at Concord High. He was all conference all 4 years. He was a conference champion and a regional champion this year. He's the 2015 Independent Tribune Male Swimmer of the Year. He also participated in football this year at Concord High School. And I also one outstanding effort in the classroom as he is #1 in his senior class at Concord High. His future plans include attending NC State University next year and majoring in engineering. So congratulations to you guys both on and off the court, and we appreciate it and look forward to the great things you're going to do in the future.
Mr. Michael Stocks and Ms. Betsy Bryan, will you come to the podium?
Thank you. I would like anybody who is here
App.
from the Programming Team Challenge Committee
Yep,
who
this
wants
is
to come to the
App
front.
Challenge winners. And app means application,
Yes.
just for you that don't understand
Not
the
app,
three-letter.
as in Appalachian. This is the second annual App Challenge was held on April the 17th, 2015. It was a culmination of a year-long project where the students identified a problem, then they submitted their idea, created a commercial to market their program, wrote the program, wrote documentation and a manual for their program, and then presented the program to a panel of judges from both Cabarrus County Schools and the local community. And we had 2 winning teams, one from the middle school and one from the high school. And the middle school winning team is Team Knights from J.M. Freeze, Rohit Namani and Rishi Narayan. And they each have individual trophies. And there's a big trophy that we didn't bring that is going to J.M. Freeze and will stay in their trophy case for the year till next year. And at the high school level, it is Team Barrier from Central Cabarrus High School, Wyatt Barrier, and Yarense Pascal Mateo. And our app team members, Erica Williard, Ashley Short, Joyce Camp, and not here are Kevin Blackburn, Patty Freeman, and Zach Hubbard. Betsy Bryan. I really need to thank her. She headed up the whole thing.
All right, parents, if you let me get my photo, then all you techie parents can get. All right, board members, we've moved to the approval of the minutes. And so I need the approval of minutes for April 6th work session and budget public hearing.
So
And the
moved.
minutes for April 13th.
Too soon.
Un momento. April 13th, 2015, that was our business meeting and the adoption of the proposed 2015-16 budget. So do I have a motion to approve both sets of minutes?
Move to adopt.
All right. Mr. Harrison makes the motion,
I'll second it.
and Ms. Carpenter makes the second. All in favor of approving the minutes as written, say aye. Aye. Oppose? Minutes carried unanimously. Next is our report section, and I just have a couple comments that I'd like to make. First off, last Friday, our board met with our superintendent in a class to work together. And then on top of that, we had a nice meeting in the afternoon session with our Board of Commissioners as we went through a class on budgeting and understanding their role in K-12 education. And very, very good meeting and a very great opportunity for us to just dialogue together and learn about the school system, its budgeting process. And so I think that went really well. Next is tonight we'll be talking about redistricting, and this is probably the first among many that will be discussed in the next several years. So though we haven't begun looking at other redistricting options, we will be discussing the one tonight dealing with Boger, with Odell, and with Cox Mill, but there will be others that will be talked about because our county is growing at a rapid rate. So but we haven't formulated any other things. So if you hear rumors, they're untrue because we haven't done any other work on redistricting at this point. So coming up tomorrow, beginning tomorrow, there will be the teacher surveys, and we really would appreciate any teachers that would be willing to offer their survey. The board members really look for this to get an indication as how the district is feeling, what their opinions are on different subjects. So if you can, please participate in that. We have no clue who does what, so the surveys are very anonymous, and we want you to understand that we do take it seriously what you put down in them, and we do look at them very carefully. And finally, this has been a year of celebrations, and you can see by all the students that came forward with their scholarships, Cabarrus County is doing a remarkable job. Last year we did really well with over $30 million plus in scholarships. I don't know what that'll be this year, but we had wonderful young people come forward again tonight, and there's probably other scholarships that haven't even been announced at this point. But your students are doing well, and we hope that we are making a difference, and we hope that through the efforts that the teachers have provided here, that they have actually made Cabarrus County the clear choice for your family. So thank you, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Louder.
Good evening. I just want to reiterate what Mr. Shoemaker just said, to say how proud I am of our students and staff. The scholarships, the recipients, and award winners that were up in front of you tonight, there were literally millions of dollars worth of scholarship just standing in front of you tonight. It's a great credit to them and to our school district, so we're very proud of them. Just a few commendations that were not mentioned tonight that have happened since last month. Amy Shue, a teacher at Beverly Hills, was named the Outstanding Elementary Math Teacher by the North Carolina Council of Teachers of Mathematics and the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. Carla Black, principal at Concord High, was named the Principal of the Year by the North Carolina High School Athletic Association. And Monica Clapp from Mount Pleasant Middle School was named the Hometown Hero of the Month by the Manette Law Firm. So, again, some of them will be recognized at later board meetings, but all happened this month, and again, we're very proud of them. Last thing I want to say is just one last plea for people to sign up to be proctors for our end of grade and end of year tests. It actually is a struggle for many of our schools to get proctors. So if you can proctor at one of our schools, please do that. It would be a great help to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Louder. All right, board members, we're now down to 7.1, but it's 8.1 on, it depends on which one you're looking at. So, all right, so anyway, we're going to do the approval of the consent agenda for the approval of May 11th. Oh, yes, that's right. Thank you, Mr. Walter. I flipped the page you sent in. 7.1 is guest speakers. Tonight, we do not have any guest speakers, but I will read through it so that the future guest speakers understand how we do it. Guest speakers may be scheduled on the agenda of the board's business meeting by calling the board clerk at 704-262-6238 by 12 noon on the Friday prior to the meeting.
That being said,
Well, I will say it will be changed. There's a policy, but it's not on the, it's on the second reading. Is it on the second reading tonight? It's on the first reading. Yeah, it has not passed. There will be a policy that we'll change that, but we'll let you know as that comes forward, and that will be posted on the website once we do change the policy. And that will allow members of the public to come, post a card, and actually speak at our business meetings without having to be pre-scheduled. So, individuals addressing the board may speak for 3 minutes, and persons representing a group may speak for 5 minutes. So we want you to be interested in speaking to us. We like to hear your voice and hear what is on your mind, so please feel welcome. All right, board members, now we're going to the approval of the consent agenda. Approval of May 11th consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
so moved.
Jeff Phillips and David or Tim? I just heard a voice. I wasn't looking when I heard it. All right, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye. Aye. Oppose? Motion carries unanimously. All right, we're moving to the action agenda. This is the approval of the proposed redistricting of the elementary schools in Odell area. Dr. Chris Louder, will you have anybody else at the podium, or you present from here?
I'll be glad to go down if you guys want me to. Nothing has changed since last week. That's still our recommendation. I know we discussed some of that. We can certainly try to clarify if we need to, and I believe there were maps if you want us to bring in the map to see. But again, we can clarify any questions that you guys have if you need us to.
Can we go over the number of students moved from each school?
Yes.
All right, we're waiting for the numbers to come up. Is that what? Or are we just posting the maps? Okay, here we go. All right.
I'm sorry.
Board members, do you have any comments on the redistricting? I want to call your attention to last week's meeting, because the redistricting description for that is for Cox Mill, which had no changes to it, or actually it had a minor change. And is that updated in this one? That's what I'm trying to find out. It seems like we had a.
It's showing North Chase going Cox Mill now.
I think if you looked at the screen, they've got it up where that shows you where the changes were.
Right, but there was a description of the changes, which is what our motion will have to be.
That area, yes, yeah. So where it says Fontana and Sybee and Moss. Where it says Fontana, Sybee, and Moss, last week that was moved back into the Cox Mill area.
If you'll look on today's agenda item, you'll see that there's a description, and the Odell area change description really is the change description for not only for Odell but for Cox Mill as well. And page 2 is the Cox Mill. So when we do the motion, we'll be approving the description. The map is a facsimile of what is written in this proposal, okay? Do I have any discussion on any of the redistricting scenarios that we have before us? As you can see, the Cox Mill area is in orange, and it runs from out there at Cannon Crossroads, the south end of Cannon Crossroads, all the way down to the county line, and east towards the airport.
Can we go over exactly how many students are being moved from each of the schools with this new redistricting?
Excuse me. Let's just work on Cox Mill first. Let's stay focused on Cox Mill, and if there's any other questions with that one, then Mr. Walter said he would like the numbers, if you have them, of the number of students that were moved, or is that what you want, the number moved?
Yeah, the number, if we're talking just about Cox Mill, the number of students moved out of Cox Mill, including that little area there.
He was asking for it we're looking for the area by numbers, and I thought it was in board docs, but I don't see it from here. I think they just looked and they didn't see it in there. Yeah, but that's what they pulled up. The change there only adds 13 students, right, Ms. Gomez? 18 students. So that change that we're talking about that added to the diamond added 18 students to Cox Mill. That's the only change in number from what was up last month or last week.
Am I correct that it was 124 proposed move last time? So is that right, or? Can you get access to your email real quick, or is that too much to ask? I just want to know what the final numbers ended up being. So what were the numbers last week?
I was looking up her email. Perhaps I can get it. Joe Gomez, she did an analysis here. Oh, that was a different one.
No, it's just a column that had the numbers in it.
Was it in a Friday report?
Well, previously it was, in April it was Odell proposed versus current, so I don't know if there's been an update of that one. The one in April, of course, still had those Skybrook and North Chase moving to Odell, so at that point it was 259 students, but I believe Skybrook is about 110 students, and then you said 24 from the North Chase.
We ended up with it was a little over 1,000 students. It was about 1,015 students that would be at Cox Mill when we added them in, which I think is the number that Mr. Walter is asking for. But so it was, capacity is essentially 1,000 students, and it was more than that. We were leaving it full, a little bit more than full, and this triangle that was added was again 18 students to make sure that you kind of had an intuitive boundaries, which was Harris Road and Poplar Tent.
Okay. So it looks like it's about 150 students being moved.
Okay.
And again, I apologize for that. I just didn't realize we were looking at the numbers again because we added 18. So we had it as a chart, I think, last time, but we just didn't have it ready for this.
Are there any other comments on the Cox Mill? Other than the, because I was looking for them, but I can't find them. Too many emails. was based on the projection that I had asked for last week, so that's not going to get it to you. That was a 4-year projection on the build-out. Well, we can go through that. Board members, last week I asked Ms. Gomez for projections if we were to build out the subdivisions that currently are platted. And basically, she came up with the fact that Cox Mill right now is close to 100% capacity at 2016 and will continue to just hover at that level through 2019 if all the platted subdivisions were built out. So you won't see a whole lot of change in the in the Cox Mill population. And according to what she had sent me,
does that include the Chinese immersion program, or that's going to Odell, if I remember correctly?
No, the Chinese immersion is going to Cox Mill, but it's not going to allow any. From what I understand, that it was Dr. Van Hukelum. You can come up and speak to it if you will, just for a second, just so that we can clarify Mr. Powell's question. Can you tell us exactly where the students will come from for the Mandarin program that's going?
So right now they're coming right from Cox Mill. The demand in the Cox Mill elementary zone was so great we couldn't accept hardly. I think we have maybe 2 or 3 applications from outside the Cox Mill zone. So they're filled right up with Cox Mill students.
And that program has 2 classes, is that correct?
Well, they had so much demand, we're going to have 4 classes. So you have 2 kindergarten and 2 first grade. Yeah, right out the gate. And a waiting list. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so based on that, it still looks like Cox Mill will stay very close to its program capacity, according to an email that I received from Ms. Gomez. And board members, if you want me to, I can, I think I may have sent this to all of you. Let's see. I can't remember. I can't find it. Here it is. Yes, I sent this to all of you on Wednesday, May 6th, her analysis, if you want to find that email, and that was regarding what the build-out would look like if they were to build out all the platted subdivisions in 4 years. So it was just a point of reference to see how that school would react to that type of build-out. And based on her analyses, the Cox Mill area would stay right around 1,035 to 1,040 or so. Not much difference. So any other questions on Cox Mill at this point?
We have the chart now is Cox Mill would be at 998 students plus the 18. So you essentially would have 1,016 students when you added that in, which again is right, basically a little over capacity, which I think is the number that was requested.
And then we are allowing grandfathering of the 5th graders. Are we still doing that, or are we not?
We haven't gotten that far, and all we've done, the proposal is that the students will shift. If we want to make amendments to the proposal, then we'll have to do separate amendments to take care of that. But let's just deal with one school at a time first. Then we'll bring the motion together, and then any other amendments that we want to make to it. So I'd rather like
based on what Dr. Lauder just said, that would be 119 students would be moving from Cox Mill to Odell.
Right, but Dr. Lauder just said that it was about what
1,016 added to the part that was changed last week when we got here.
Right, so Cox Mill is at 1,016
under what you're going to vote on.
Right. Okay.
And right now it has 1,149 students.
That's correct. But in the analysis that I gave you on May the 6th that Ms. Gomez did using a 4-year build-out, Cox Mill didn't change more than 3% based on what we know today about subdivisions that have actually gone before planning and zoning and been approved for building permits. Okay?
Well, I maybe jumped the gun. Do we have any idea what, if we grandfather 5th graders, how many 5th graders are we looking at?
we don't know how many fifth graders will take advantage of that, but we can give you the number of fifth graders. I'll also say I believe in the preliminary discussions of the school that the frequently asked questions that's posted on our website says that we are grandfathering fifth graders. So I think that's already been advertised.
Okay, so that is implicit in the proposal.
Well, I think we need to make it explicit. So explicit. So
I think if we need to make it amended.
Okay, well, let's just get through these discussions and then we'll create the motion. Okay, I don't want to jump the gun. All right, so now we got all of our questions answered for Cox Mill. Any more questions for Cox Mill? All right, then let's go to Odell, and I'll entertain conversation about Odell.
Okay, so again, same question. How many students are moving into Odell? And I had 265 plus you'd add the 18. Is that right? Minus the 18, sorry.
So what do you have for your population numbers for Odell, Dr. Louder?
Under the proposed plan for K2 for Odell is 603 students. 3.5 is 621 students.
That again was before we added those 18 students.
Well, that's true. So I don't know what grades those are spread over, but essentially that's 18 less over each of those two.
Yeah,
that's right.
Now, if you remember, Odell was the district where you had the 550 home subdivision that came before us and forced us to realign again when we were looking at this. In Ms. Gomez's, in what I asked her to prepare for us, she showed that Odell would stay around 82 to 93% in 2016. By 2017, the 3.5 would exceed program capacity. It would go to 106%. By 2018, it would go to 116%, and by 2019, it would go to 123%. And the Odell K2 would actually reach its program capacity in 2019. That precipitated Dr. Phillips' conversation about what do we do about the additional rooms that we have projected that we could add to max that school out. That'll be a separate conversation. We won't have that tonight, but that is something that we'll have to further converse on. So that was if the build out of 550 homes happens in 4 years. So that's all a conditional. That's just a swag on what could happen with the Odell community. Dr. Phillips?
Well, it's more than just that one subdivision. It's all of the subdivisions that are currently under construction in that area. So
yes, you're correct.
There's, I think there's a potential for 800 students. You said last week.
Yes, if all the permits that are out there were essentially all come to fruition, they would generate 800 students in the Odell area and about 180 students in the Cox Mill area. So if, in a worst case scenario, if every home was built, you would have around 1,200 students at Cox Mill and 2,000 students combined in those two elementary schools.
All right. So, any more conversation on Odell? Clarifications about the district? All right, board members, I'm ready to entertain a motion. Ms. Carpenter? Okay.
All right,
Okay.
Boger, what I'm wanting to clarify is that we are leaving the area, what's the name of the area? Unts Road, LaForest, Rollingwood, that is staying in the Boger area, right? So those people will be in the Boger area. Transportation is Boger and everything, right?
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct. There's been no move to change that. I only made a
Okay, so
suggestion
they don't
last
have
week.
to worry about transportation or anything, correct? Okay, I just want to verify that. Okay, so they are remaining at Boger, and they don't have to worry about their
If-
transportation.
I would ask you to go to your agenda and look at proposed Odell area change description. And if you can bring that up, please, there's 2 pages to that. Yeah, this is the wrong agenda. This is the wrong agenda. Do y'all see that? All right. Odell area description, we'll start with Boger and Odell. It says proposed to Boger and Odell, and there's the description, Ms. Carpenter. And it shows you that basically from Don T. Howell Reservoir to Mooresville Road. Then after that, it says the intersection of Odell School Road and Unts. This is including Windy Road, Club Road, Overcash Road, Bradford Road, Johnston, and all of that. And all the way. So those are all in Boger. Farms at River Point will return. No, I'm sorry. Here's the note at the bottom is the one you're looking for. It says the area from Odell School to Unts Road to Poplar Tent Road will remain at Charles E. Boger. Do you see that note right below your finger? Go down farther.
Okay.
Keep going. It says note. Right there. That's carved out, and it still remains at Boger.
So is it correct that we have 162 students that will be moving back or moving from Boger to Odell?
Right now, we have 795 students at Boger, and under the proposed plan, there'd be 645. So that's what, 150? Again, it may vary a little bit from there, but that's pretty close.
Okay, are we satisfied with making a motion on this entire document? This is page 1 of this document is the Charles E. Boger to Odell School. Shows that the farms and the area north of 73 bordering the lake over to Windy Road, all of that will go to Odell, and then the portion that will remain at Boger will be in the note. Page 2 of this document shows you Cox Mill to Odell, and that would be also a part of this motion, and that shows you the description there, which we've already reviewed. Do I have a motion to accept this as is? At least a motion to accept this, and then if you want to amend this, if you have some changes you want to make but you like the content of this, then we'll do an amendment to the motion. Is that okay? Because Dr. Phillips has an amendment that he'd like to make. That would be on top of these 2 pages that you see here, and that would keep that very simple. So the base motion is the 2 pages that you have written in front of you, and that would be what I'm asking for a motion on.
And that's basically what we've got right there.
Yes, ma'am.
Those maps. That's
So moved.
Second, Mr.
All right,
Chair.
so I have Mr. Furr making a motion, Mr. Harrison seconding that motion. Now we will have a discussion. At this point, I'll entertain any other discussion about these options. And Dr. Phillips, I know you'd like to talk.
Well, I would, but I didn't realize that the movement of the option for rising 5th graders to be grandfathered wasn't explicitly in here. So I guess that would be the first motion I would make, is that we make.
Well, why don't we just incorporate it into your
Yeah,
motion
okay. Well,
here?
well, okay.
Just
so
do one big.
all right. Here, David said he wanted last week. He wanted written documentation of what we were going to vote on. So why
You know,
don't you take
Dr.
one down
Louder,
and
Dr. Louder
pass
told
it
us last
down?
week that was in there.
Okay.
Well, we need to have it in writing. Excuse me. I think we need to definitely have it. It was posted, but we haven't really had it in writing. I think it needs to be within a motion, that it as a motion, it needs to be there.
Okay. So what you have before you is Dr. Phillips's attempt to craft an amendment to this base motion that we have, and then after that, so the motion that he has right now is any students who live in the areas that are moved from Boger to the Odell schools by this redistricting may attend grades K-5 at either the Odell schools or Boger Elementary. However, the school district will only provide bus transportation to and from Odell schools. Students' parents or guardians would be responsible for providing transportation to and from Boger. Then additionally it goes, because of the rapid development of this region of the county, parents and guardians are cautioned not to consider the option of attending Boger to be a permanent policy. This board reserves the right for future boards to modify this option as circumstances dictate. So
moved. We'll see if I get a second.
Well, why don't you, do you want to add to this?
You want me to go ahead and add the other?
Yeah, add about.
Okay, all right, and in addition, all rising fifth graders impacted by this redistricting in the 2016-2017 school year, that's the first year, correct, would be allowed to stay at their current school, provided their parents or guardians provide transportation.
Can I ask a question? Oh, you through? All right, you done? Okay. How many students, what if all of them their parents want to provide transportation? Is this not, this is choice school or charter school or whatever you want to call it, but.
Yeah, so I think
we're not doing that with Cox Mill, are we? Those students? Oh, we are?
So the way my motion would currently read is that fifth graders at either school could remain, but only those in K through 4 could remain at Boger. The rationale for Boger is that it's not overcrowded, and we believe that Odell will be. I certainly understand. We told the people that live in the farms that it was going to be temporary and they'd be coming back when we had a new school, and I assume that most of them will want to go to Odell again. But there may be a few that, their children have best friends that are still going to be at Boger, and they may want to stay at Boger. So this would give that flexibility since we do have the space. That's the rationale there. And then on the rising fifth graders, that seems to have been a tradition. I know that we did it, this board didn't, but the previous board did, when we moved students from Cox Mill to Fur Elementary.
Could this be effective for this year? In case you, like you say, everybody decides to do it, and then we've got a real dilemma on our hands when we do see the numbers.
Well, I would say that for the Boger students, the only dilemma will be traffic of car riders. There's certainly space at the school.
Does one depend on the other? Can we vote on the general plan first and then add in our amendments after that, or do we need to do it all in one motion? We had a motion inside of a motion, it seemed like.
Right, we've got a motion inside of the motion, and our only focus is the exceptions. So what we're dealing with is just the exceptions, and if we can get this cleaned up, then this whole motion will come back to us as one big motion. So what we're trying to do right now is clean up the fifth grade exception, which is Cox Mill and Boger. In other words, students that those two schools could continue to attend those schools if they got redistricted away from them to the Odell. Then the other part of this motion that Dr. Phillips has is that the students who are in the Boger, who were in the original Boger area but got redistricted to Odell, those students would have the option of going and remaining at Boger K-5. So that would be for the next several years. Now, that does beg the question, how long do we allow this to go on, and how long is a long time or a short time? And so do we want to put a window on the length of that? And I hear that's some discussion that I hear from the board. Do you want to put a end on that, end cap on that K-5?
Well, I just want to add one more thing to that. You know, we're going to have some, over the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to have redistricting continue. To me, you're going down a slippery slope, because if you do it now, every redistricting we do, people's going to want choices. And I know, I mean, I understand the thought process, and I'm not disagreeing with it. It does make some sense, but I know that going forward, it could open a can of worms that I don't know if you want to deal with or not.
Well, and I talked with Mark today about this about that subject, and I said, you know, the only reason that Dr. Phillips is even offering this motion, and he and I had a conversation also about it, was because in 2013-14, those children or students at the farms, in the Windy Hill area, at the Hunts Road area, all got redistricted to Boger. Now here we are, 16-17, less than 3 years later, we're asking them to go back to a school we just redistricted them from. So I think that if we were to approve this, we ought to put a carve out in that to say that this is only in response to a redistricting, and now we're going back to try to rectify because now we have capacity. And so future boards wouldn't have to deal with this issue because we actually said this was an exceptional situation because we actually did 2 redistrictings within a 3-year period of the same area. And then I thought that might at least protect other boards from this slippery slope that exactly what you're talking about, Mr. Furr.
Well, one of the things to remember when we moved into Boger, the farms especially, we told them when we moved them, as soon as we build that school, we promise you we'll bring you back because that's where you live at closer. We told them we would, but there again, we're making an exception because a lot of them got to Boger and they like it and they want to stay. So, you know, that's what was odd. Some of them wanted to stay and some didn't.
That's correct, Ms. Carpenter. But, you know, it's rare that this district does 2 redistrictings in 3 years of the same spot. Does that, and I don't think that we'll be doing that knee-jerk reaction very frequently. So, well, we were just trying to clarify what this whole motion is. All right. So, I was seeing some verbiage added to this. All rising 5th graders at either Boger or Cox Mill impacted by redistricting in the 2016-17 school years would be allowed to stay at their home schools, current school. And then I wanted to add that this amendment is only the result of redistricting from Odell to Boger in 2013-14 and the subsequent redistricting in 2016-17. Due to the close nature of these redistrictings, that this is a one-time exception. Sorry. Thanks for boring television. Okay, now, who was the first for this?
So I moved it.
All right, Dr. Phillips is making a motion. Does anyone want to second this amendment to the motion?
Why don't you restate it in its entirety?
Okay. All right. So you have the original motion, which states any students who live in the areas that are moved from Boger to the Odell schools by this redistricting may attend grades K-5 at either the Odell schools or Boger Elementary. However, the school district will only provide bus transportation to and from the Odell schools. Students, parents, or guardians would be responsible for providing transportation to and from Boger. Because of the rapid development of this region of the county, parents and guardians are cautioned not to consider this option of attending Boger to be a permanent policy. This board reserves the right for future boards to modify this option as circumstances dictate. All rising fifth graders at either Boger or Cox Mill impacted by redistricting in the 2016-17 school years would stay at their current schools. This amendment
Could.
Oh, yeah.
Could.
Excuse me. Could stay. Thank you. Thank you.
Without school system transportation?
Without CCS transportation. I'm just trying to make it short and sweet. Okay. Does that sound okay? Okay. So I've finished that one. All right. Now the next paragraph reads, this amendment is only the result of redistricting from Odell to Boger in 2013-14 and the subsequent redistricting 2016-17 period. Due to the close time period of these redistrictings, this will be a one-time exception.
And you made the motion.
So
I'll second it.
You want a friendly amendment or?
No, I just want, can I ask another question?
Absolutely. So Carolyn's now.
Yeah, Carolyn's seconding it, right?
Okay,
I
yeah.
understand that,
And
but
that's the second to the amendment.
yeah.
Okay.
But before I vote, I would like to ask, and I maybe not the right thing to do, but I would like to kind of know the ramifications. Would it be wrong to ask Mr. Klutz to or someone from the staff in their opinion on what this could do or couldn't do? Or is it,
Absolutely. We're in discussion now, so we can ask him as many questions as we want.
and not that Dr. Phillips don't know what he's doing, but
No.
you know,
This is discussion time.
I mean, my calculation, look at it, looks like we're offering the first part of that to about 150 kids, and the second part somewhere between 40 and 60.
the staff have a problem. Is my question, Dr. Louder. I don't know if I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I'd like to know.
I don't know if you say we have a problem with it. I would say that your reservations for that are ones that we've had in the past. Is that can that one set a precedent that later on could be an issue? It could, and if the numbers are quickly come to fruition the way that they're predicted to be, it could cause an issue. So there certainly is a possibility for down the road that causing a problem, but.
Mr. Harrison, did you have a comment? You look like you're warming up.
Only that our quandary seems to be that we don't have a crystal ball, and I don't want to be a year into this and then have to roll back some of this decision. The growth out there is just so explosive, we can't predict it. And I'm hoping that the public understands that that is part of our anxiety about making any of these decisions. That it's just murky. We can be faced with tremendous growth, or it may take a lot longer for some of those houses to actually be created and people to move into them and school-age children to move into the buildings with their families, therefore go to our schools. On one hand, I want to offer choice to people permanently, or not permanently, but I'm sorry, offer some choices to people for the short term, but we may have to turn around and completely change that approach in the foreseeable future if we do attempt to offer choices here. If we kept it clean, the next time we have to confront this issue, it would be almost easier to move forward at that time, as opposed to having so many different provisions currently. I'm just trying to get my own mind around which way to go at this time.
And I know if we had an attorney here, we would probably say, let's ask the attorney. But I think it sounds like to me that the board generally agrees with the lines. In other words, I don't hear anyone dissenting with the lines. So if Mark or Sarah was here, I think I would say, well, can we vote on that first to say these are the boundary lines for the schools and see if we agree on that, and then parse that out by the other. I know there was some motions within motions, but for me, I think it would be, here's what the lines of the schools are going to be, and then decide to vote on whether there were exceptions. But again,
Dr. Louder, I've already gotten that straight. They all agreed with the first document. So pretty much I got a motion on the first document, and that's been approved. If this amendment fails, then we'll go right back to your first document, and that'll be done. So we have got that agreement. The whole board is tacitly kind of agreed that the basis of the motion is the first document, though we haven't voted on it yet. The next piece of this discussion is this amendment that we're talking about. And the reason that I put this last piece of the carve-out was a protection for the board, because in talking with our lawyers, I did not want this board ever, or any other future board, to be held liable to any other redistrictings where you show this type of favorability. It's rare that we ever do redistrictings of the same area in a 3-year period. Mr. Powell.
I understand the disclaimer or the add-on statement to explain it, but I don't think that's going to save us from setting a precedent that we may not want to set. I think that we'll still get those requests at that time if we're not careful. If we do something that another group later on would want the exact same treatment, not exact same treatment, but they'll try to make it fit their circumstances. And I think I agree with just kind of getting the basics agreed on first, and then let's work out the changes.
When we vote on this motion, if you turn this motion down, then we'll be back to the original motion. So, we're in this now, and so we'll have to complete this process.
And we still may come back to agreement on the amendment if it doesn't fly or whatever.
Right.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it can be brought back up again in a different way, but it won't be in the context of this. Yeah. Ms. Carpenter, did you have another question?
I was thinking about withdrawing my second. That way it can just die. I'll withdraw my second. Let it die.
Okay.
Make a decision.
Are you withdrawing your second?
I'll withdraw it. Let it die. Then let's
All right.
just
So the amendment is now died. There's no second, so she's withdrawn it.
And it could wait till we can get some actual numbers on what we think the impact and come back to us. Can we not? I mean, this is not until 2016 anyway.
Okay. All right. So board members, we no longer have we're back to the original motion. And the original motion was the first 2 pages that you see in the board docs describing the maps that you have in front of you. So now I'll call for the vote. All in favor of that motion, the way it was originally worded in the board docs, say aye. Say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hands. Okay, so motion carries 7-0.
All right, now, I would like,
So we have a redistricting.
and now I'd like to make a motion that we just grandfather the 5th graders. Just 5th graders. That without transportation.
I will second your motion.
Just that. Just do that one right now. Just that by itself. Well, yeah, just the ones
Right,
that
so-
were affected by the,
Can I say that? Can I state this to you?
or the ones that were affected by the,
So, Ms.
Yeah.
Carpenter, is this
Yeah.
your motion? All rising 5th graders at either Boger or Cox Mill impacted by redistricting in the 2016-17 school years could stay at their current schools without Cabarrus County Schools transportation.
that's correct. Just, the ones that were affected by this redistricting. Because that's what we had stated. We have already stated that
All right,
in
so-
this redistricting, if you look at our website.
All right, so that's Ms. Carpenter's motion.
I second.
And
I second it.
Dr. Phillips seconds that. Any more discussion on this motion?
Do we think we know how many students that is? I mean, I think it's about 50, but I'm not sure.
I can tell you, when we opened Patriots at when was that, 2010?
10.
We had about 15 students that stayed at Harrisburg and maybe 2 or 3 that stayed at Rocky River, and I don't think any, maybe 1 or 2 stayed at Bethel. So it was less than 20, and we had a school of 600. I don't know if that would give you any insight or whatever. I don't think it's going to be a ton, but that's just my guess, I guess you could say.
Robert, or could anybody, Donna, anybody, what do you think we're looking at?
I can't give you a number now, but I can tell you that in all the redistricting for elementary students, we have always grandfathered the 5th grade class in.
That's what
So
I've
this
been
is
thinking. I don't think we've
And that's
ever...
always been something very well respected by our community, because that's a hard year to make a transfer to another school.
That's what I thought. We've always done that.
'Cause Robert's
I
office
keep hearing
always-
these people say, we haven't done it, but I've been sitting here 8 years.
30%? Is that right? Okay.
But there's always a formal letter that goes out to all the families so they're aware, and a deadline is given, and we have to hold tight to that deadline so that we can set up classes.
But
that
I
would be
was
the-
thinking we always did, but they have to provide transportation, right?
That's correct.
And we don't provide transportation, so.
That's
But
correct.
that's,
Ms. Smith? I think Mr. Walter had a comment.
Just a quick, since it's for the 2016 school year, that deadline is a year from now, is that right?
Yes. I will say yes.
Okay. Any more discussion on Ms. Carpenter's motion that all rising 5th graders at either Boger or Cox Mill impacted through the redistricting in the 2016-17 school years could stay at their current schools without Cabarrus County Schools transportation? All right. All in favor of this motion, say aye. Aye. Oppose? All right. That motion carries. Do we need to make that a formal policy? Since it seems to be implicit in every redistricting, should that be formalized in any way? And I'll send that to the policy committee, and y'all can work on that.
Like come up with a redistricting policy.
Right. Well, just something that gives us, so we don't have to fight through this anymore. Yeah.
She got it. Okay.
Let us move on to Mr. Frank Fiorello. Come on down for the school nutrition program lunch price increases. Oh, 9-2. I'm sorry, I wrote all over 9-2. I'm sorry, I skipped one. My mistake. We're going to talk about the approval of policy revisions on the first reading.
Okay, we have 3 policies on the action agenda item tonight. We have our first one, which is school trips, 3320.
No, I was trying. We did it right.
We do have, if you look at that, there are what you see in blue and then also what you see in black. There was some discussion around the wording of adding opportunities for chaperones for parents as well as or designee, and advice from our school attorney wanted us to put both of those there because there was never any kind of motion or agreement on which of the 2 you guys wanted, so that's why that's written that way.
Okay. Any discussion on the school trips? Mr. Walter?
Yeah, I'm okay with those changes. I'm still concerned about the potential financial impact of it, but I think an opportunity to discuss at policy committee level might be helpful.
Would be great, yes, sir.
Okay, looking at pre-qualification of bidders. Any conversation on that one? 9115. Mr. Walter?
I just don't think it's necessary at this time. Like Mr. Lowder said, that's not our practice at this point, so I don't think we need a policy if it's not our practice. If it becomes our practice, I think that would be a good time to bring it back, but at this time, adding policy for the sake of adding policy, I don't think is worthwhile, so I am opposed to adding this one.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Walter. All right, anybody else have any conversation on 9115? All right, then let's go to 9020, facility design. Any conversation on that one? Mr. Walter?
I just think this is our opportunity to make sure that we say that we'd like cost considerations to be part of any facility designs. It's just more explicit than it is in that first sentence. But other than that, I'm okay with it.
Where are you asking for that to be added?
I'd add some type of sentence in the second paragraph there somewhere, but again, that's something that we could discuss at a policy committee level.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Harrison.
I hope I'm in agreement with Mr. Walter. If these policies can be approved here but brought back up before the policy committee in the very near future for any of these other considerations, we could move forward.
Okay.
I'm suggesting that we do move forward. I'm suggesting that we talk to it at the committee level, and if there's changes made there, it'll come back to us.
Yes, this is just our first read, so we can definitely bring it back.
Yep. All right, so any more comments on these policies? Then I need a motion to accept the policies as written.
Can we vote on them individually? Because I'm not in favor of that.
Okay, well, then
I
I need a
would
motion
support
to vote
that.
on each one separately.
Second.
All right, so who's going to vote? Which? Let's see. I need a motion on 90-20. I need a motion to accept 90-20 as written.
So moved.
Dr. Phillips, who's going to second? Second. Mr. Harrison, any discussion? All in favor of facility design 90-20, say aye. Aye. Oppose? Okay, that one carries 7-0. Pre-qualification of bidders for construction work 91-15. Need a motion? Second? I'll make a second. All in favor of this of pushing this through as the way it's written, or I say pushing it through, approving this in the way it's written, say aye. Aye. How many? Raise your hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it looks like we got a 4-3 vote on that. So that will move forward to the second reading. Need a motion on school trips 33-20.
So moved.
Jeff Phillips. Second. David Harrison. Any discussion? All in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Okay, that one carried unanimously. Now we can move to Mr. Fiorello. I'm sorry to have skipped that one. Approval of school nutrition program lunch price increases for 2015-16. Oh, Dr. Probst, come on up too.
Well, thanks. Good evening.
I didn't know you were coming. I thought you were going to let Frank do the work for you.
Not tonight. It's the recommendation of the school nutrition department that the board approve the request to raise lunch prices by 10 cents for the 2015-16 school year. By doing so, our school system will meet federal requirements, and we will not be in jeopardy of losing federal funding.
I have a
Mr. Powell?
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question. Could you talk a little bit about what would happen if we did not approve this 10-cent raise?
Okay, if we do not approve the 10-cent raise and we don't get audited, perhaps nothing. If we get audited and the federal government does find out that we did not do the recommended increase, we could lose $7.7 million of federal reimbursement. There is the option, if the school board requests that we don't raise by 10 cents, that the school system itself could pay the 10-cent increase. That recommendation would obviously have to come from the board, and we think that it would be around $105,000 to $115,000 next year, depending on how many meals are eaten.
So it
Mr.
sounds as if the $7.7 million is pretty onus. There's a great onus when we could come up with $100 and some odd $1,000 to pay for it ourselves. But if we I'm confused. Why would they fine us $7.7 million
if we
we
did-
could come up with under 200,000 of our own?
If we did not put our own money in and the first question Mr. Powell asked was, what if we did nothing? And I was giving the case scenario if we did nothing. I believe last week I also gave you an alternative. You could obviously choose not to raise the 10% or 10 cents, and if you didn't want to take the risk of losing $7.7 million, then the school system could say, well, we would go ahead and chip in 10 cents for all those paid meals. I have to tell you that our actual formula was 11 cents. They recommended that we raise 11. We got permission to drop it to 10.
So the $100,000 amount again is?
For all the paid students. So the federal government comes in and says, this is how much money we're going to reimburse you for the free and reduced children. But because we're giving you this money, you also have to have the paying students at a certain threshold. In other words, they want to make sure that you're not keeping the paying students, their meal prices lower than what they say they should be. So you could keep the current pricing, but then we'd have to make up that difference on those paid meals, not on the free and reduced, on the paid.
What is your recommendation?
My recommendation is exactly as I read it. This is something that I am truly, neither Frank or I want to raise the prices. We do think that the prices, with the cost of food, I think Mr. Furr made a really good point last week. It's very hard to produce a meal for $2.45, but our recommendation stands that we do what the state and the federal government have directed us to do, and that is to raise the meal prices by 10 cents.
Any other comments?
When was the last time we raised prices?
We have raised, and I have a sheet for you. Let me pass this out. The last time we did not raise prices was in 2011, 2012, and I can remember that year, and I remember being excited that I did not have to come before the board and ask for price increases. Then we started having all the new nutritional requirements with the fresh fruits and vegetables. Food prices have increased. I will tell you that I'm involved in food and beverage in several other areas or other groups outside the school system, and we're every year looking at a 5 to 7% increase in produce and food. If you follow this chart, you can see that in 2012-13 we only raised 5 cents. The number right there, 246, is where they said we needed to be, and the U.S. average was at 250, so that's only 4 cents. Obviously, we didn't raise it by 4 cents, we went to the 5 cents. Dropped down to this year, they're saying 259, and the government's saying the weighted price is 270, so you've got to make up that difference. That's where the 11 cents comes in, but they're saying we can go ahead and charge 10. Unfortunately, we have had increases for the last 4 years. Neither Frank or I think that this is going to stop. We think each year will be before you. We hope, unless we can get some changes, we've requested Dr. Louder to work with us to help write some letters to say that the states need some, or the counties inside the state need some more leverage. They need some ability to pull back on some of these requirements that are being enforced upon the school districts regarding school food.
And these are federal requirements.
Yes, sir.
These are not state requirements.
No, these are federal requirements. The state is very active in trying to get some of this changed. They're very supportive of what's happening at the LEAs.
Ms. Carpenter?
Question. I've got one thing. First of all, now this is kind of off the subject almost, but how your lunch line's set up. Because one of the things is, first of all, you'd want to maybe sell more meals. That seems like that would really help. Are all the lunch lines set up the same? When I say that, how it's actually set up?
I'm going to defer. Mr. Powell said he wanted to.
I think they're all very similar at high school, middle school, and elementary. But to your first point about selling more lunches, I did find out at the child nutrition banquet that there are no more whole wheat biscuits next year. They are regular biscuits.
Real biscuits.
So
yeah.
real biscuits, which are some of the changes that Frank was talking about at the banquet coming for next year, which I think that change alone will probably help your sales. At least
Yeah,
for
everybody
at least
was
for
cheering
Team Powell, it will.
at that banquet about that. But did they put the vegetables first and then the entree? Is that correct?
It really depends on the school and the setup. There are a lot of like schools, and we have a salad bar at every school, and the bar of the day, our salad is prominently displayed, so that's the first thing they see. It really depends on the school and the setup of the school, and each school is set up a little bit different to say.
Because my ear was bent because somebody made a suggestion, because he said they put the vegetables first, and they said, no, you should put the entrees first, because if they got their vegetables first, and for instance, say they wanted to do, say for instance, they had the vegetables first, and say they got their vegetables, and say they got broccoli and squash, and then they got down the entree, and they found out it was barbecue. Well, their squash and their two vegetables didn't go with that, because when they got down and got the barbecue, they would have got baked beans and slaw to go with that barbecue. They wouldn't have got the squash and the so then those vegetables got thrown out and they ate the barbecue. So, if you'd have put the barbecue first, then they'd have got the vegetables to go with it. So, and I learned this from one of your great, wonderful, one of your cafeteria managers.
Let me take this as a recommendation. Mr. Harrison has suggested that we look at different things, of which we do action research, and we're going to bring that report back to you. We will take your recommendation and look into that. But I will tell you, I don't think it's the norm, but you make a great point, and we'll look into it. But tonight, I really need you to consider voting on
but the taste test too. But a lot of those things, and the other thing, are we still having the free breakfasts? Wasn't there 2 project type thing? Now, would that make a difference if we said, no, we're not going to do that? Would that help this total, not to have those?
No, breakfast is completely separate in this situation.
That wouldn't make any difference. We would still have to do that. If
breakfast prices.
Who pays for the free breakfasts? Where does that money come from?
That's made up by the increase in participation at those higher free and reduced schools. So the free and reduced students were not eating breakfast at those schools, and by making the school aware and making it free for all students, it increased the participation of those free and reduced students, which increased our federal reimbursement. So this is a different situation. The breakfast really doesn't have anything to do with the paid lunch meals that we're talking about.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to try anything, and I hate to see, I hope whatever we can do, we need to be told what to do. I do not ever like to try to increase, because, the parents, if you've got 4 or 5 children, it does really do it. We need to stand up and say, no, we don't want to be pushed around by the feds or by someone. We don't want to do that. But again, we've got to make sure we don't lose $7.5 million. We don't want to lose that.
It would be nice if we can get a letter, obviously with Dr. Louder's signature, but if we could bring it back and get the board's support on that too, that would be wonderful.
Could all that happen after we vote for this increase right now?
Yes, sir.
As a parent with 4 kids who eat lunch in the cafeteria 3 to 4 days a week, I move we follow the recommendation of the 10-cent increase.
Second the motion with a recommendation to come up with a formal resolution that we would present to our members of Congress, the U.S. Congress and the U.S. Senate, and distributed to those individuals expressing probably speaking for every other LEA in North Carolina, but formally laying out explicitly how much this is pinching not only parents and families, but systems like our own. And it's just a rock and a hard place that we just can't seem to get around. But I would second the motion.
Let me just, so Mr. Powell made the motion, Mr. Harrison seconded it. Any more discussion on this?
Yeah, I'll just say my piece again. You know, federal government dictating what to do is that's bothersome. It's bothersome that we've raised prices for years in a row, and then our waste is at an all-time high. People just our students just throwing food away. You would think there would be huge savings right there if we could just get them not to be throwing away all the good food. But I think your other suggestion about us covering the cost, can you consider doing that through the budget process next year, if that's going to come? But
And Mr. Walters, when I realized that was an option, I thought the exact same thing, that next year we'll put it on the budget expansion and see what happens.
Any more discussion?
Well,
Ms. Carpenter?
I don't think that's the answer to the question, because I don't agree for that, because there again, that would be, no offense, but why should I pay for your kid's lunch and your kid's lunch? That's the taxpayers paying for the parents' responsibility. I would much rather pay for books than people's food. I mean, children's food.
Well, we can have that discussion next year.
Okay.
Yeah. But, all right. I would like to have a vote on this. So, all in favor of this motion of approving the increase as presented by staff, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Let's move on. Thank you, Ms. Ropes. All right, board members, we're going to the calendar.
I make a motion we approve the 15-16 calendar.
I'd like to make an amendment.
Carpenter.
I'd like to make an amendment to that.
Wait a minute. I've got Ms. Carpenter. Do I have a second to the motion? Tim Furr. All right, any discussion?
Can I make
Mr. Walter?
An suggested amendment to the calendar?
Mr. Walter, what is your amendment?
Yeah, again, my thought process being that we ought to take our public meetings out to the schools. I mean, that's where the work is being done. It's an opportunity again to highlight what's going on at those schools and get public involved that normally wouldn't come out to the Ed Center here. Knowing that I don't have a whole lot of support to that, I do want to suggest as one date, and taking into consideration what Ms. Carpenter said last week about we have enough meetings and we don't want to add meetings, that we hold our work session on September 8th at Wolf Meadow Elementary School. And I say that because, again, that is one of our schools where we're going to be making a difficult decision, or possibly a decision regarding year-round schooling. It's an opportunity for those folks to come speak to us on that issue. Those folks do not tend to travel a whole lot, so we're coming to them. We're able to see what's going on at Wolf Meadow, and I think that I'd like to hold our September 8th meeting, seeing how that goes, and if they are well attended, since we haven't had a whole lot of, I guess, high attendance of some of these other ones, go from there. But my only suggestion would be to change the work session dates on the 8th and hold that at Wolf Meadow.
All right, board members, I have an amendment to the motion so far, and that amendment is that the September 8th work session meeting be held at the Wolf Meadow School as the location. Do I have a second to Mr. Walters' amendment?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Powell seconds. Any more discussion on this particular amendment?
I've got a discussion. Wouldn't it make more sense to have it as a business meeting, because that's where we have the opportunity for the public to speak? I don't think we do that in our work sessions.
Could we add to the agenda time for public comment, since it's at off location, if approved? Is that allowed?
I think we could. Yeah. The only thing about the business meeting, we usually have the recognition, so that's why I wouldn't hold the
This is the September 8th work session. It's a Tuesday. It's the day after Labor Day, and it'll be at Wolf Meadow School. Rob has asked that it be held at Wolf Meadow. Can you key up, please, sir? Yes, sir. Thank you.
But did Jeff say business meeting?
No, it's a work session. Jeff brought up the point that in most of our business meetings is when we hold the guest speakers, but we could add guest speakers to our agenda. All right, any more discussion? I just have one point that I would like to make is the majority of the students that go to that school come from a challenged community, and we probably will not see many of the parents from that community to come there. So, even though I understand what you're saying, it's probably not going to get the type of parent involvement that we probably would like to have. Yes, sir.
Is there a cost related to this?
Ms. Probst, could you talk to us about the potential for costs by having a meeting at Wolf Meadow?
I was looking at Eileen. Sometimes we have to pay Mark additional funding depending upon what has to be pulled in those areas. If you're talking about a taped meeting, if you are not talking about a taped meeting and we have to just pull materials, it's just labor intensive. The first time I priced it out, it was around $2,000, but that was when we went over to Winkler and we were paying for additional support and all those types of things. So if you could describe for me exactly what you would be thinking, if it's having a similar meeting like this with the recording, we're going to have to pay additional on the contract.
If I recall correctly, there were also additional hours, certainly. When you say labor intensive, that means Eileen Monroe, unfortunately.
Well, that's why I looked at Eileen, because I have to tell you, and
unfortunately, disproportionately, it does fall to a few individuals.
And I looked at her because I think we all need to be considerate of the fact that when we have to pull something like this off, it is extremely labor intensive for Eileen.
It also involves additional hours of technical setup.
It does, and my staff has to get pulled from supporting the schools to go pull this off, and you asked for a price point on it, and so I will go back to that Winkler evening, and when I took people's hours and figured out all the extra time, I was estimating it around $2,000.
Okay, well, I'm certainly not envisioning anything close to that. And again, we all have iPads or computers that we don't really need a whole lot of technology that I can see. If we do want to film it, that's one thing. If we don't, that's okay too. So.
It's obviously less expensive if we don't film. And it doesn't, that's the situation too. So lots of times we have to pull cables and all that kind of stuff.
I'll just speak for myself. I think it is any voting citizens' responsibility, as well as a parent's duty and obligation, to speak up and be informed and know about matters as they pertain to their children and how the school system may allocate resources or discuss year-round arrangements at this and that school, whether we have it here or take it to the audience that would be most directly impacted. On one hand, isn't my concern. My concern is that however we go about discussing that topic, which already sets the agenda for that Tuesday in September, and that to me kind of jumps the gun that there may be any manner of other discussion points on that particular night. It seems to me that if the parents at a school or in a neighborhood or a location have a strong feeling about something that the school system may choose to do, that they should express themselves actively in those discussions. And taking a big step that really has not proven cost effective. It has not proven cost effective. It has proven to be very, very onerous in terms of the work that it puts on staff to make things happen. It just does not happen overnight. You've got all this equipment here, you've got all this infrastructure here, and that's why it's relatively easy to pull our meetings together here at this location. But to move it to another site is quite a challenge, and it is a pinch on resources that I don't guess are just kind of laying around. It's not budgeted. What else needs to be said? As good an idea as this is in theory, we've tried it several times. We've had low turnout in 1 or 2 cases. We've had a whole lot of heartache and heartburn to get it done a few times. Quite frankly, if parents at any school have a concern about anything that we're doing, it is their responsibility to come to us and speak to us and to make their voices heard. And to take a road show to them does not, I don't think, marginally affect that process, quite frankly. I just don't see the value of continuing to attempt these on-site locations except in very rare circumstances.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. I'd like to call the question. Anybody else? Ms. Carpenter. Can we just vote on this thing?
Well, wait a minute. Well, one of the things, I definitely wouldn't want to do it at a business meeting. First of all, because at our business meetings, usually that's when we have our awards and things. So you'd have to get the people that we're going to get the awards to get there.
Mr. Walters' amendment is to have it on a work session this year.
Yeah, and it needs to be in a work session. I don't think to help save the cost, I don't think I would tape it. I'd just say, hey, we're not going to because of the expense. And just say we're just not going to do that because of the expense of it. And if we want to do it, again, I think we've tried it. I could go either way with it, I really can. I think we do have a reason to go out to Wolf Meadow, and I could go either way with it. We've tried it, but to keep the cost down, I'd say we just not tape it and just go out there, and if they're there, they're there. I think that the parents have a reason to be there, and if they're, let's go out there and say, we're here, come see us. And so that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Carpenter. All right. Board members, I'd like to... Oh, I didn't see you pop up.
I know it's I realize that parents have a vested stake in their child's education, and it's their responsibility to come forth and complain or voice their concerns to us, but that's not going to happen. That's not what happens out there, guys. They don't know how to voice their concerns. They know when they see us face to face that they need to talk to us about something they don't like. And that's, you've seen the numbers are not overwhelming, parents and people coming to talk to us. So I think that's a great idea to try to get to them. Try to make a separate schedule for them to come to us. I don't think that's going to be very effective. It sounds like it's proven to be ineffective up to this point. So I would be open to finding a way that we can integrate ourselves into those school environments when they're already going to be there. Possibly a PTA event or a fall festival or something along those lines where we can market the fact that they're already having an event that attracts the parents. And a lot of times there's money for those events, Title I money and the like, that can naturally attract those families where they don't have to worry about child care, they don't have to worry about feeding their family, it's a pizza night or whatever. So I think that we need to examine ways that we can go into their environment instead of the other way around.
And as Mrs. Carpenter often is quoted as saying, if she gets an invitation, by golly, she's going. But if there is such an invitation to attend something like a PTO or a booster event, delighted to go. But that's a different venue than the picking up the whole shebang, so to speak, and going out to a location for a formal meeting. But I'm delighted to go to a organizational meeting at the school by the parents or the teachers and activities that normally occur there at the schools.
Well, I did talk to the principal a couple months ago about it, and he was open to the idea.
Board members, it's time to take a vote. And so the amendment before you, that's all we're voting on right now is just the amendment, and that is to amend the calendar to make the work session scheduled for September 8th to have the place that it's located at Wolf Meadow School. All in favor of locating at Wolf Meadow School on September 8th, say aye. Raise your hands. 1, 2, 3. All opposed, say aye, or raise your hands. 4. So the motion is defeated. 4-3.
What would be the process of developing some sort of supplemental calendar where we are informed? I'm sorry, I'm not on the agenda, I guess, but it's
Well,
related
why don't
to
you
this
let me finish this motion, and I'll answer your question. All right, we still have this other motion, the base motion, which is the calendar. Let's vote on that real quick. All in favor of the calendar as noted before us, say aye. Aye. Oppose? Okay. So that motion carries unanimously. In answer to your question, Mr. Powell, all we have to do is if we bring a motion to the board or say that you'd like to add it to the agenda, and we can discuss possibly adding a date to the calendar. That we did that last year, and then we added a date, and then we took a date away, and then we added another date. So we can amend the calendar. Maybe not. It's probably best not to mess with the work sessions and the business meetings, but we could actually add another date for the board itself.
I think I'm thinking a little differently. I guess in my mind, I'm thinking that those dates probably need to come from the school. And if I mean, Chris, you can weigh in if you would. Just have principals sort of look at their schedule and map out their events and see if they can fit some element of the school board, not obviously maybe a full meeting or not something like that, but just ask them to be intentional about getting us out there, and then we can, talk to them in their environment. That's sort of what I was asked. I don't know. Let's hash that out if anybody has any other suggestions.
Well, and one of the things Dr. Louder could actually, because he's talked about next year he's going to have several meetings, up to 4 or something at the schools. One of them could be Wolf Meadow, and the board would be invited to come and attend with him, and I think that would be very powerful. But I agree with what you're saying. I think we just need to play it and wait till they form their calendar and see how we can fit into their schedule. I think it's a great idea. All right, board members, we have one more item to take care of.
Do we need do we need to explicitly say that make that a motion or I don't know, what did you say, Jeff, when we didn't, it was just a common practice, but we need to make it explicit or no?
I think when we note some dates, I think that you're sensitive to dates, and Dr. Lauder would be sensitive. I think that we could just come up with a date. It could come up at any board meeting. I wouldn't want to make it a formal policy that we have to go do that.
What we could do is just ask Superintendent Lauder to come back to the board with recommendations on how we could facilitate some level of a community connection at and it doesn't have to be every school, but just at a handful of schools in the coming school year, and to maybe talk with principals and come back to us with possible suggestions on what we could do. Knowing that the idea is we just want opportunities for informal communication with parents to get feedback. But I think that's what we're seeking. We don't want to have a big intimidating formal meeting where somebody has to stand right up there and get up on the camera. But it's just, hey, how are we doing? Right? Wasn't Mayor Ed Koch? How am I doing? Yep.
All right. All right, let's move on to 9.5, which is the approval of board travel for NCSBA Conference and President's Leadership Seminar at Carolina Beach, June 22nd through the 26th. There's actually 2 different events. There's going to be seminars, and then there is a policy for the last 2 days. Currently, Ms. Carpenter would like to attend, and I would like to also. So board members, you'll be voting on a motion to approve our attendance at this event. I'm still trying to get some information about what's being presented, and I got a little bit tonight, but they haven't approved the agenda for the Thursday and Friday session, which is Allison Schaefer and the legal department.
So have all board members met their training requirements? I think that's the case, right?
It looks like they have, based on what I was looking at that Ms. Monroe provided us. All right, do I have a motion to approve Ms. Carpenter and I attending this conference?
So moved.
Dr. Phillips? Anyone else? Second? I know, I do too. Okay. Thank you, Tim. All right. All in favor of allowing us to attend this conference, say aye. Aye. Raise your hands. Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Thank you. And then we'll
We
get
expect
that
a full report when you get back.
Yes, there
Would-
and there's some.
Would it, before we,
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to, I have a question, but I'm not sure. I thought maybe the attorneys were going to be here to answer the question about, I wanted to have a discussion about teacher displacement or teacher reassignment, and I'm not sure if this discussion needs to take place in open session because it's just a discussion about policy, I guess you could say, or if it's more of a personnel matter that needs to be in closed session. So it was kind of
Individual, usually it's
not really individual, but just a.
I think that
do we have a
this
policy?
is a. Huh?
Do we have a policy on that? We don't have a policy. Okay.
We can try board docs and see if the search function works.
What would that be called? Reassignment or displacement or?
we don't have an attorney tonight, do we? So we
No.
can go in closed session.
Yes, we can go into closed session to talk about personnel listing.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Are you coming up, Glenda?
There is a policy on transfers and reassignments, so, but what Mr. Powell is talking about is the displacement process, which is captured in, it's just not called displacement in the reassignment policy. So there is a policy that speaks to that, just not calling it
Do we allow
displacement.
Mr. Powell to review that and see if he wants to bring that to policy committee? If
Well,
there's any
sure.
changes?
Well, would that be considered closed session or open?
Well, if we're not talking about an individual, that would actually be open session,
So
okay?
that's
So
why I was saying, if it's not about an individual, though, but
Right.
it could be open.
Right, so it's something that could actually go to the policy committee and be
So,
reviewed.
so go to policy committee is a good place to start.
Well, let's let them provide that to you, let you review that. If you've got some thoughts that is
Okay.
inconsistent, then absolutely, I think it should
Okay.
go to policy.
all right. So,
All right.
so I'd like to move into closed session. Board members?
I would make a motion that
He's already talked to him.
we go into closed session.
Thank you, Ms. Carpenter. And we're going, and I need a second to that motion.
I'll second that.
Rob Walter seconds that. And this is the move into convening closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A6 to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment, or conditions of initial employment of an individual public officer or employee or prospective public officer or employee to hear, investigate a complaint or charge or grievance against an individual public officer or employee and pursuant to General Statute 115C-319 through 321. All in favor say aye. Aye. We are now in closed session.